Hello, and welcome to the final, almost canceled for Game of Thrones this season. I am the former king beyond the spoiler wall because the Night King, he said, I don't care about your parameters. So I don't have a title right now, but someone that does have a title is the Maester of White Harbor, Connor.
Yeah, still
Yeah,
here. Still taking notes
still
vigorously.
taking notes. Notes that I can't read, and he claims he can read, but his penmanship is. It looks
I
like a doctor that is going through drinking withdrawals and is just shaking.
Look, for these specific notes, my defense is it was dark, I had only the light of the TV
Uh-huh.
and I wasn't looking away from the screen. It's all in shorthand, so it's kind of a mess. But then if you look at any of my actual writing anyway, it's just as bad. So it
It
doesn't really
it
hold
looked
up.
the same. No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
But we're here today to talk about the season finale called "The Dragon and the Wolf,"
Yes.
season 7, episode 7. And from here on out, we're gonna do like the Night's King and destroy the spoiler wall because this was a huge, massive episode, the longest of the series thus far.
By far, it's a good 10
Yeah,
minutes longer than the last longest one, which was last week.
yeah. So, uh, yeah. So you've been warned. This is where I don't know why you'd be watching this if you wanted to remain spoiler free because people are weird though. No judging, just But first thing I want to touch on is probably the biggest story plot thing, and that's the Night King breaking the walls down or
Yes.
wall down, and
Part of the wall.
part of the wall, which I think a lot of people seem to think that was redundant. That he was going to take out the entire wall. Like I guess in the books, there's this horn that can melt the wall, and they've talked about this, but the showrunner's like, nah, we're just gonna do the easy thing. The Night King has a dragon, so and what do dragons do? They
They burn
they
stuff.
they burn stuff, and that's the thing here. But I didn't think a white dragon could blow fire because fire is like that's one of the things that they can't do. But dragon, Joe, that's all I got.
Dragons be magic.
Dragons be magic. Although I've done some reading in between this week and last week, and that it's more chemical the way that their fire burns. So I guess it's a cop out. Like,
I guess. I mean, so it's a blue flame, but it
mhm,
very clearly looks like a flame.
yeah,
But the way it impacts the wall looks like a solid.
yeah. It looks like a concussion beam, like in X-Men when
Right.
Cyclops hits things, he takes chunks out of it.
Right. It
Like,
doesn't look like it's melting. It's
no,
it's it's hitting it. But at the
right,
same time, it visually looks like a flame.
yeah. Which is why I thought maybe it was an ice dragon, but I guess an ice dragon would be something completely different. That would blow frost
Yeah.
instead of flame. Although you could make the argument that that's what this is because it's still concussive and it's still
Yeah.
taking out
Yeah. That's
pieces of a
true.
wall. I
It's murky.
It is murky, and so this is where the episode ended. But I wanted to start here because this is probably the biggest thing that's happened. I would say maybe since the Red Wedding, like that completely changes the game.
I'll say since the Purple Wedding. I think Joffrey's death kind of
Yeah, I
because
mean that's
that's what
something.
led to that's what led to Sansa leaving King's Landing and
Yeah,
setting in motion a whole bunch of things.
okay. But so we end the episode and we see Tormund and Barrack, who we hadn't seen for the rest of the episode. They didn't go down south with the rest of that crew on the Capture a White mission, and they see just the dead start coming out of that forest from Eastwatch.
I love that you hear the three horn blasts. Like,
Yeah,
obviously Sam always said, threes for White Walkers, and
right.
it's just as soon as you hear the three, it's like, oh yeah, that.
That's they have contingency plans.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
part of the plans.
right. And so it's just the stunning number. Like we saw a lot last week, but this week they did a number of them coming out of the woods, and it just feels oppressive that many
Right.
people.
Like I think it was earlier in the episode. I think it was Daenerys said they had that she saw at least 100,000.
Yeah,
This felt like far more than that.
yeah. And we know that they've just been marching this way since Hardhome, and it makes sense that they come to Eastwatch because that's where the wall ends, and it really is the least defended part. Which storyline wise, John knew this. That's why that's where they left from, right? Because he calculated from Hardhome. I'm glad the Night's Watch weren't there because that would have been a really fatal blow to them.
Yeah, I mean, I assume because obviously Eastwatch is one of the 3 manned castles.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume the Night's Watch were there, and whoever was at Eastwatch. But I think that was, obviously there weren't as many people there as at Castle Black.
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, you just think they would have had a little bit better defenses that's set up there because you knew they were coming, and you didn't think they could get through the wall, right?
To be fair, in their defense, they didn't think they were coming with a dragon.
That's true too.
They thought we're going to be fighting them on the ground. Even if they try and climb the wall, we can pick them off as they climb. We will defend the gates, fortify that. Like we saw at the Siege of Castle Black a few seasons ago. Like that's what they expected. They did not expect a dragon to come in and just destroy this part of the wall.
Yeah. Well, and that also, what was the Night King's plan from there if he didn't have a dragon? Like, did he know Daenerys was coming with a dragon? Like,
quite possibly. I mean, if you want to get into that theory, I suppose.
But I'm just like, what was his end game if he got there and there was just a wall and they had no way to breach the wall?
Right.
I mean, that's why Bran the Builder built the wall, right? Like,
yeah, to keep them out. I mean, I guess they'd just make a push at it at the gate because what else are they gonna do?
Yeah, I think that's what this season boils down to. Is there's a whole lot of luck coming into play more than before.
Yeah.
Just with the story, and I'm okay with that. I know I'm reading a lot of opinions on it that like this season was just too fast and things are a little bit too convenient.
I have to agree. For me, I mean, we'll get into some overall season stuff when we get to the end, but I think it is a lot faster paced, and I think I'd be okay with that if the rest of the show had been like this. But the show set up a style for 5-6 seasons of this is how it feels.
Yeah.
And this kind of went, nope, we need to get to the end. Let's just get there.
Yeah.
And it feels different.
Yeah, and so that's where I would say different's not necessarily bad. But I can see the criticism. Yeah. Like, this episode didn't wow me. There were moments that totally wowed me, and I stood up and applauded, as my wife's telling me to calm down.
I feel that way about the season as a whole. There are moments that are amazing, but I'm not sure it comes together as a cohesive whole.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed this episode for what it's worth. I mean, and the way that they end it, knowing that we're going to have to wait a long time for the next one. Like, we waited long for this season, and the wait's going to be even longer. Some reports are saying November, December, and at earliest September. So
best case, because we know they start production officially in October.
Right.
And so that's, best case, we're looking at next September to start. Right. Worst case, some people are, even HBO bosses have said might be 2019.
So, and the whole leave them wanting more, they definitely did, because I almost half expected a Marvel style, post credit or something.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Just with the way this ended, because
this scene at the end with the wall coming down kind of was that post credit scene, in the sense that it's very disconnected to anything else in the episode. It's just kind of, and here's one more thing.
Yeah, well, because that's when he raised Viserion last week. It felt like a post credit as well,
Yeah.
So I mean, they're doing good, but I just kind of expected it because it was the last episode and they had us by then. But yeah, big things with that. And Tormund and Beric, their fates are currently unknown.
Yeah,
I doubt that they got caught in that avalanche as the wall came down, because
that's it. I'm torn because when I watch it, I look at it, I go, yeah, they should probably be dead. They were at the top of that. Yeah. Like, they were trying to come down, but they were right at the top, and I don't see it. But at the same time, there was no death scene, which as a rule means probably still alive.
Yeah, no body, no death. And we had that entire scene last week with Tormund where they toyed with us and he was getting pulled into the water by the whites.
Right, it would feel weird to just throw that away and just kill him off screen, essentially, here.
Exactly. And I mean, I won't be surprised either way, but that was a sticking point and went, well, where's my boy Tormund? Like, Beric, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
he's had his times.
who really cares about Beric?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just,
it's fine,
especially that
but
Thoros. Yeah.
yeah,
But I guess we can start going more traditionally now and go through the episode chronologically. But I just wanted to get that out of the way because, like Connor said, it was disconnected enough that not that it felt tacked on, but it doesn't have anything else to do with anything else that happens in this episode. That's really focused on the conflicts between the main houses still, like because in this first setting we're gonna go to King's Landing. We get characters sharing the screen.
The political dynamics again.
Yeah, well, we get characters sharing the screen for the first time in the show's history.
Yeah,
you know,
and some that have been just really far too long.
Yeah, exactly. So head to your notes, and where are we starting?
We are starting, okay, so we're at King's Landing. We got the clear show of force. We see Grey Worm and the Unsullied standing outside, and then, clearly they've just abandoned Castle Rock because screw it.
Yeah,
yeah. And then obviously the Dothraki screamers come in, make a show of just being terrifying because that's kind of what they do.
Yep.
And you have Bronn and Jaime up on the inside going, "Yep, we're screwed." Essentially.
Yeah, and it's great Bronn and Jaime stuff where they're talking about they've spent this time together, and this is the craziest thing they've ever seen.
Yeah, and they have a great conversation, which that's going to sound weird when I follow it up, about how everything comes down to Cox.
Yeah,
but that's actually a big thematic thing in this episode. So
it is
not as irrelevant as it might sound when I just say it like that.
Yeah, well, because they're talking about the Unsullied and how what's the point of their fighting for if they don't got any private parts.
It's basically men think with their dick. That's what this boils down to. And the idea, it's something that's been relevant for the whole show, really. Like everything Jaime did was for Cersei.
Yeah. Well, it was for love. Like, I always felt like Jaime was way into Cersei more than Cersei was into Jaime.
Yeah.
And that's weird considering they're brother and sister, and I still can't get over that. But it's a super dysfunctional relationship where his kids call him uncle, and they're not wrong, but
he is both.
He's Uncle Dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, everything he's done has been driven by his love of Cersei and even this weird honor to upkeep her honor, even if she's not holding up her end. Yeah. And because what's led to her rising was her walk of shame because, of sleeping with her cousin.
Yeah, she didn't really learn that lesson, did she?
No, none whatsoever. But yeah, the Bronn and Jaime scene is pretty great, and that plays into when Bronn meets back up with Podrick too, because they talk about that. Well, Jaime's like, well, if they're not fighting for that, then they're fighting for gold. And Bronn's like, I fought with enough people to know where soldiers take their gold, and it's not to the bank, referring to all like whorehouses in King's Landing and Flay Bottom. So the fact when Pod shows up and those two leave together, it's like, well, I know where they're going.
Yes, we know all about Pod's magic cock.
Yeah,
as they nicely remind us.
That's right. And but Jaime, man, I can't get over the fact that he was one of my most hated characters in the beginning, and now he's become one of my favorites. He's such I don't want to say a complex character, but he has that inner struggle going on, especially in this episode.
He has some really great moments in this episode, and we'll get to those. But so we basically just have a quick scene of Team Daenerys minus Daenerys arriving, by boat. They're talking about just how many people are in King's Landing. It's like 1 million people, give or take.
Right.
Just to kind of give us a sense of stakes, I guess, of the city, of just how big it really is and how many people are packed into it. I think John even says, there's that many people across the entire north.
Yeah.
And we know the north is bigger than all the other kingdoms combined.
Exactly. It's a lot of space, not a lot of people. And
right.
And I feel that's why the north is, they're a little more mellow because they're not on top of each other. You know,
Right, they got space to breathe.
exactly.
But yeah, all this really does is just bring them together, set up that they're arriving at
Hmm.
King's Landing, and Hound has his screaming box,
Yeah,
which
that was a great moment as
yeah,
they're in the boat and he knocks on it and
it
it
just
starts going
starts
nuts.
screaming. He's just checking it's still alive.
Yeah. Oh, he's another character that's really grown on me. Like you always knew that he had a heart, because of how he treated Sansa even in
Yeah,
season 1. But here he is, to me, he's not the Hound anymore. He is Sander.
yeah,
You know,
that's fair.
been reborn, and it's just a moment like that. Him go knocking on the box to make sure it's still
Yeah, just to make sure the
kicking in
plan's
there.
still going.
Yeah.
Make sure this isn't all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually doing some thinking.
Yeah. That's right.
But yeah, no, we have a little scene with Cersei, going, she's preparing as well, and the line that really stuck out to me, just to show that what her mentality is, she goes, if anything goes wrong, kill the silver-haired bitch first.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, okay, this tells you where she's expecting the worst, and she's like, no, I'm ready for this.
Well, it really feels like she's just going through the motions. Like, even though like her army's been completely obliterated,
Yep.
she still has King's Landing, and that's her bargaining chip. But what else does she have? Like, there's nothing.
Right. And that's kind of the
Yeah.
sort of thing I think going into this season. I think a lot of people expected Cersei not to be on the throne by the end. I mean, she survived an
Yeah.
entire season. I'm
Yeah.
not sure many people have done that.
No. Not on the
But
throne.
not on the throne. No, exactly. But as you can see over there, she still sits on the Iron Throne.
Wow. Such a nerd.
I know.
Maybe the Maester of White Harbor.
What can I say? I mean, I was getting prepared to swap her out with,
Yeah.
but no, okay, I guess that'll be an end of the show thing now.
Yeah. Well, that's smart. I mean, I have my Jon Snow in his crow gear standing on top of my TV stand in the living room for this season, so I am really no better.
No. I mean, we can all see that behind you. Yeah, calling me the nerd. But yeah, no, I think this is just really showing where she is. She's kind of, like I say, going through the motions. She's prepared because it's what she has to do, but it's kind of like, yeah, whatever, we'll just do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on the way to the Dragon Pits, which is basically a Colosseum.
Yeah. So, it's my understanding the Dragon Pits is where they would keep the dragons, right?
Yeah, this is kind of what they were saying from what I gathered is, dragons be dragons. They're going to kill whatever. They don't care if it's people, sheep, or enemies. They're going to just do it. So we'll keep them here and it's safe.
Yeah, they have no distinction of what's theirs because everything is theirs. It's kind of like a toddler,
Right.
Like, except a toddler that can blow fire and,
As a terrifying toddler.
It is.
And toddlers are pretty scary already.
But yeah, so, and Dany later, after, when she does appear, but has that whole thing, like, this is where her family kind of, the end started.
The end, yeah.
The beginning of the end. That's the phrase I was dancing around. Which is kind of like, it just shows how disconnected she is from everyone else.
She's looking at it very objectively, isn't she? She's like, I know these are my family, and I know, like they were great rulers. They conquered, undeniably. Yeah. But they're like, this is where they went wrong. I can do better.
Right, saying that in front of the other people. But yeah. I mean, but to the Dragon Pit, it's a cool visual, and it does look like the Colosseum on a smaller scale. Yeah. But and the way that they have it set up with the opposing sides.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was super cool looking.
It was. So we get some, meetings of people here. Tyrion and Podrick have a really, sweet moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where they have this reuniting, and they're like, "Oh, I'm glad you're still alive." All that. It's nice.
Me too. Well, and Jaime and Brienne as well. Kind of look at each other, and there's an acknowledgement there.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously that comes up again later.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of reminds me of last week. You know how that first half of that episode was all just beyond the wall, but having banter. Like having our group kind of just catch up, get to know each other. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the same for the first chunk of this episode.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think it's largely what a lot of this season was missing. Like, it was all plot and very little of this.
Yeah.
Like you have Brienne and Sandor. Sorry, I'm going to
Yeah,
correct
there
myself
you go.
there. That was just a case of reading my notes. But
Gotcha.
yeah, they were talking about Arya and how capable she is now, and he kind of looks a bit proud.
Yeah.
Uh, you
And
know,
and that's the thing is he got those girls out of danger,
yeah,
and he wasn't the nicest guy, but he still did care about them. And so and the fact that we know that Brienne, or Arya really took it to Brienne,
yeah,
and he's just kind of like, yeah, that's her, you know.
yeah,
But
definitely. But yeah, it's a bunch of these nice moments, isn't it?
mhm,
Until we get to the pit,
yeah,
and that's when stuff starts. Really, so
oh,
Bran and Podrick leave to
right,
presumably go to the whorehouse,
hmm,
and that's when stuff starts going interesting. The Hound has his nice moment, like
yeah,
he left this shit city because he didn't want to die in it,
right,
and now he's like, I'm gonna die in this damn place.
yep. Well, and then his what's left of his brother comes at him,
Yep.
and oh man, they're teasing the Clegane Bowl hard.
It's happening because he even says like Sander literally goes up and says, "You know who's coming for you." It's
Uh-huh.
like you're mine, no one else's, and
Right.
they wouldn't take that away from us, I don't think.
Well, no, and the fact that he's just like, "Are you even still you?"
Yeah,
Like,
and he's like, "You
and
reckon there's
they're
enough of you there to recognize
yeah,
me? You know who I am. You know what I'm gonna do
yeah,
to you."
and I love that so much because the Mountain is such a intimidating figure, and then you throw that mask on him, and
Right.
it's even more, you know. So that was good. The scenes that got me, well, the moments there that got me were Cersei being upset that Daenerys is late.
Right. She's really like it's a lack of respect, isn't it? Like she's there like going through all the formalities. I bothered to show up here on time, and she
Right,
can't be bothered to be here.
right. But part of me thought that too is that she felt like she was being duped. Like she thought, well, maybe she's not actually coming.
No, I
You
don't
know?
think that. I think it was more she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew Daenerys was going to arrive on a dragon
Uh huh.
and make it because it's a power play, right?
Right.
And by her kind of putting this in, she knows that Daenerys is trying to make this power play, and she's getting in early and going, I don't appreciate this. It's not a power play
Right.
because I know about it and I know what you're doing. And it's the same as when she does arrive and you just hear the dragon, everyone gets
Yeah.
to their feet, like looking up, where is it? What's going on? But
Right.
Cersei stays sat down. She doesn't move. She doesn't even look up.
Uh uh.
The restraint is incredible.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, so you're on, they're about to start proceedings, and then you're on, can't help but open his mouth because he has to
Ugh.
show off. And
Yeah, I thought of you. I thought
uh,
Connor's throwing something right now.
I'm there going, we're literally waiting to get on with it. And all the characters are waiting to get on with this. We're there waiting to get on with this. And
Right.
then we got to sit and listen to Euron go on about how he's got Yara. And it's like,
Yeah.
and make shit dwarf jokes, as Tyrion even points out.
Yeah.
What's the point?
No. Well, I like how Tyrion handled that. I'm kind of called the Iron Island a shit place to live. Like he wouldn't want to live there anyways. So
Yep.
you're actually doing them a favor by
Yeah.
killing dwarfs. And yeah, just the Euron stuff here. Like I get that he's a big flamboyant pirate, but again, Danny and Cersei are meeting on screen for the first time, and the showrunners thought this was going to be a good time for him to antagonize
It,
Theon.
it I don't think this moment adds anything for it
It
doesn't add
doesn't.
anything for Theon because it doesn't change anything long run.
No.
It doesn't add anything for any other character. All it is just an interruption to kill some time.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know. It's one of my complaints this episode is you're on there specifically. I don't get what the point of that was.
Yeah.
But they keep conversing, and moment that really stood out to me is when Cersei she calls Daenerys a usurper, which I
Yeah.
thought was a fantastic touch. Given that Daenerys spent so long calling Robert the usurper, that's what she always referred to him as.
Yeah.
And that was his thing, and turning that around back on her and making her seem like the foreigner, it kind of really tries to put her in a place, doesn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. But she's just like her dragons. Danny doesn't have a place. Everything's hers.
Yeah, that's kind of as far as she's concerned, definitely.
Well, even then, the way that they're instantly drawn to her. She arrives on the dragon. She makes this big show of it, and you can't help but keep your eyes on the silver-haired girl.
Well, that's true.
She has a presence that Cersei just doesn't have, and Cersei never really had. Like, she's always been the person that she's her father's daughter, where she does everything behind the scenes and in the cover.
Right, that's why it's kind of strange for her to be the one being the public face. She doesn't have the charisma. Like Daenerys has the charisma that draws people to her, like you say. So she just doesn't have that. She's got the brain, absolutely.
Yeah.
But not quite the person.
Yeah, she's Tywin's daughter, and we see that later, because the worst spot to be in Westeros is always on the other side of Tywin's desk.
Absolutely.
And we get it here when, in a scene, I'm not trying to jump there, but you're on the other side of Cersei's desk, and she does the same as her father would. And it's shades of Tywin.
Yeah, definitely. But finally, the main event, we're going to bring out the White.
Yep.
So Sandor carries up that box on his own. We see how heavy this thing is. It was on like a full, stretcher thing that, multiple. It was on like a cart. It was being dragged in, and that just gigantic motherfucker puts it on his back and strolls up those stairs.
Yeah, stairs nonetheless. Like, too, I do stairs when I go to the gym, and they ain't no joke. And I'm not carrying nothing. So the fact that he's carrying an undead person in a big, heavy wooden ark box, like,
that's it.
Because it looks like the Lost Ark to me. Like,
it does, yeah. Like, that's it. Stairs are killers. I do running. I can do, a few miles, no problem. But you give me like 3 flights of stairs, and I'm dead.
Yeah, that's it. I get you. And so he brings it up, and he knocks on it, and it's kind of quiet, and everyone is like looking at it like, what's going on?
Like,
and
then there's that worry of like, it plays like, is it dead? Because we heard it active not long ago. What's changed?
And the suspense, and that's the one thing in this episode. It's the tension throughout. I don't know if it was just me knowing like this is the season finale, but the tension in these scenes was fantastic.
It is, and then you have him kick it over, like no, and jumping back as he does it.
Yep.
And then nothing, and then suddenly it's sprinting at you.
It sprints forward, and then you see that it's on a chain. Gets pulled back. I mean,
it only just doesn't
misses
quite
Cersei.
reach Cersei.
Yeah. Had he kicked that box 4 inches further, Cersei's in trouble.
Very much.
It's an act of war.
Yep. But he drags it back, chops it in half, just to prove that no, look, this thing's still going. Chops off its hand. And
it's still going.
It's still going. It kind of leaves it there for a minute. Qyburn gets up and looks at the hand just to, have her own proof of her side going, yeah, no, this is still going.
Well, that's also what Qyburn strives for.
It is the
to
undead.
Reanimate the dead.
This is his dream. Is this hand?
Uh-huh.
And of course, this is where we have them just show what can kill them. The fire, the dragon glass. It's where Daenerys says there's at least 100,000 of them. Jaime is absolutely terrified by this thing. You can see it on his face. He's like, nope, too far. You're on Pussy's off. Is how I put it in my notes. He's just like, nah, screw this, and go back to the Iron Islands. They can't swim. I'm good. Yeah,
and this is what gets me about the Ironborn is, as someone, notably, I love Viking culture and whatnot, and you can feel the Viking influence on the Ironborn and the Iron Islands, and just the fact that outside of Yara, they're all just so neutered,
Yeah, I feel like
Theon literally so.
I really think that Balon's rebellion kind of crushed their spirit.
Yeah. So the fact that I thought he would have been like his whole bravado. I've been all around this. Yeah, I'm just going like, I've seen far worse. Like,
and that's it. He goes, I've traveled all around the world. I've seen things you couldn't imagine, but this is what I'm scared of. I'm like, all right, mate. It's one dead body. If you've really been around the world and seen that much, I don't know. I mean, I know this is awful, but there are equally awful things out there that we've seen.
Yeah, and so I mean, I was glad to see him walk away. I was like, good. Let that be the last we see of him.
So this is where Cersei accepts the truce on certain terms.
Yeah, and this is what killed me because she knows that Jon has allied himself with Daenerys. The fact that he's there
Yep.
with her. Davos is there, who fought against her already. He was on Stannis' side, and so her saying like her terms of, well, that's fine, but then the North has to yield to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like, yeah, I'll stand down. I won't do anything else. I'll stand down, but you have to stand down after this. Essentially, you can't rebel against the crown.
Right.
And she appeals to him. She says, Ned Stark's son will be true to his word. I know that, and there's no way that you could lie. If you give me a word, you'll stick to it. But he won't do it.
No, because he's already given his word to another, and that's Daenerys Targaryen.
It is, like he says, he cannot be pledged to two separate queens.
No. And then Cersei having everything unravel after that, I was just like, well, Cersei, you're overplaying your hand, because it's, I work in a middle school, and so kids are very volatile at this age.
Yeah.
And you can't let them know your buttons, because if you let them know your buttons, all they're going to do is push at them, right?
Yep.
Cersei's got hers on like the bat signal. That's where her buttons are. Like, and it was just basically like she wanted someone else on her side. And the North hasn't even had any aggression against the Lannisters. Like,
not recently.
No, like they've been storing up because, they know it's on the other side. They fought against the Boltons and reclaimed everything. So I get why she did it, but I think she misplayed her hand there, because it made her seem petty.
It did, and they're all standing around, and even Jaime is like, "Hey, come on, really? We both know this is real. We've just seen that."
Yeah.
But it doesn't do anything, and Brienne tries to appeal to him. She comes up and saying, F loyalty. That's not important. Yeah. Living is more important than being loyal to someone. And I mean, that obviously sticks with him. It's nice to know that Brienne can still get through to him, as we've seen in the past. They do have this real nice bond.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But yeah, what do we got next? We have them, talk about like Jon gives a speech about how he can't lie. It's just if too many people lie, then it all becomes bullshit. So what's the point? You gotta take a stand. You can't just be one more little lie.
Yeah, and that's the irony coming from him on that.
Yeah.
Because that's his entire thing, and I loved his speech there, because his entire struggle is not to be out of Ned's shadow, but to live as Ned would have wanted.
Yeah.
Because as he knows Ned isn't how we know Ned anymore, because we've seen other things, but he has him up on this pedestal as this fair and honorable man, and I'm only as good as my word. Yes. And I'm not going to break that for anybody. And again, I liked it. I liked that that's Jon's character, and it hasn't wavered, even as he's been turned on by the wildlings, and then he got them back to his side, and the Night's Watch got them back to his side. Like,
we've seen how many times he's refused to break his word. Like, when Stannis offered him Winterfell, and he was like, no, I took an oath. I'm here.
Exactly, and it's gotten him this far. Like, sure, it's got him killed once. Right? Like,
for most people, that's enough.
Yeah, it's enough. But I think that's even double down now on him. And that was his whole, in the first episode, when Sansa wanted to punish the two houses that had sided with the Boltons.
Yes.
And he's just like, I'm not going to punish them for what their family did. And yeah, he's just keeping the honor, being a Northman.
He is the epitome of a Northern man.
Yeah.
Exactly. He is the best that they could aspire to be.
Yep.
But yeah, so obviously Tyrion's like, no, I'm gonna go visit her alone. I maybe have a chance of convincing her.
I might be dead, but hey, it was a run.
Yeah, and there's that nice moment where John says, "Hey, my fault. I'll go speak to her." He's like, "Well, if you go, you're definitely dead."
Yeah.
But he does. Tyrion heads off, and he
Yep.
has a little moment with his brother before he goes in, calling them both, affectionately calling each other idiots.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, who's the real idiot? I love
yeah,
that. I love the Jamie Tyrion. It's back to where it was because he knew like, and again, it's the difference between Jamie and Cersei. Like when met Tyrion in that episode, what 2 episodes ago now,
yeah,
and he wanted to stab him right there because he killed his dad. And he's like, well, he put me on to death for a crime I didn't commit.
yeah, that
It
he
was my
knew he
life for
commit as
his.
well.
Yeah, and so Jamie relaxed, and now he has his brother back, and they have that bond. And it's him and Cersei never had that bond. Like she's always hated him.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Tyrion does go in, and he basically, offers his own life. He's like, "Look, if you need to kill me to solve this problem,
Yep.
then do it." And she looks like she considers it. You got the mountain looming over him, which is a massive height difference between the two of them.
Oh, big time, big
Obviously,
time.
Gregor is a very tall man next to
Uh-huh.
anyone, but next to Tyrion, it's quite the noticeable
So
difference.
he like half draws his sword,
Yeah,
and
he's
it
got
made
it
me
up ready.
nervous. Yeah, and thankfully she doesn't go through with it, and she does, listen to his reason. And this is the scene that I was talking about being on the other side of her desk.
Yeah,
Is when that's the worst place to be, and he goes and pours himself some wine, which he knows that Cersei's gonna have around her at
yes,
all times. Which of course that's how he breaks the tension.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and then yeah, go ahead.
I think this is where it gets really interesting because
Mhm.
she plays the pregnancy card. Now, this is where I'm torn. Does
Yeah,
she just talks about, like, when she saw that white coming towards her,
yeah,
and realized the reality of the situation. She wasn't thinking of the country and all the people. She was
right.
thinking of her family, and she touches her stomach.
Right.
And was this intentional on her part, do you think? Do you think she's going, let him think I'm pregnant, put that up there? She
Yeah.
knows Tyrion's smart enough to see that and put it together. Or was it just a reaction that she wasn't aware of? Did she accidentally overplay her hand there?
Yeah, I think she never does anything on accident.
Yeah,
And so and that's because in their conversation she holds him responsible for Joffrey, Marcella, and Tommen.
yeah,
And he kind of lets her have Joffrey because he's like, well, I never liked that kid. But the other two, he goes, I loved them, and I would have not wanted anything to happen to them.
right.
They're my family, they're my blood, and I know you don't think that means anything to me, but it still does.
It does, yeah.
And he reaches out to her on a family level, and that's where she kind of. I don't think she
Softens a
overplays her
little.
hand. That's when she softens and let him know, though. No, she's pregnant, and there's going to be a next generation of Lannister, and
Mm,
you know, and that's how she kind of appeals to him because that's family, and he's willing to do anything for his family.
okay, because like obviously last time this came up, we were debating whether or not the pregnancy was
Yeah,
even real, and
I think it is now. After the events of here with Tyrion,
honestly, this
I think
murkied
she
it for me
is.
more. Because
You
before I
think?
was on the side was like, oh, she is, but
Yeah,
here I'm like, I don't know. I feel like she's played it to Jamie. It's only a matter of time before she plays it publicly anyway.
yeah.
Why not play it why not play it to him first and go,
I just
I'm gonna
what
get
does she
that.
have? Yeah, what else does she have to gain though with him taking that information back to anybody? Like it's just for Tyrion, you
I
know?
don't think it is. I think Daenerys only exists because Robert failed to kill the
Right,
children,
right,
and we know how that was a whole big thing. Going after the kids, and Ned didn't
right.
want him to. Will Daenerys go? She's going to have a kid. I can't kill the innocent kid. Is this Cersei's way of trying to save her own life?
Yeah, and that's definitely what I think it is. But with the whole aspect of the white and the long night that's coming,
Yeah,
you know, I definitely think that she is. She's not worried about her country. She's worried about her family.
yeah. Okay.
So that's where it comes down to.
Yeah. So obviously we actually cut away from that scene there. We don't see any more of their
Uh,
conversation. We don't see how Tyrion manages to convince her. But we cut back to the dragon pit. We have a little bit with Jon and Daenerys, talking about the dragons of old and what they were like, how big they were. And it's fine. It's just character building for them. I don't think there was anything that important in that conversation personally, other than just continuing their bond.
Well, that's where she brings up the dragon pit, that's where the beginning and the end happened. So it was weird for her to be standing there, and then Jon picks up that dragon jaw that's tiny,
the tiny one,
to see it's almost that family is they came in conquering on dragons, and they were the greatest thing Westeros has ever seen, but by the end, the king was driven mad by insanity. And the last dragons were the size of dogs.
I wonder if it's like a warning against the incest nature, because obviously it became a point. This dragons were all one family, and they kind of got worse and worse over time. And obviously we saw that's how that happened with the Targaryens as well. By the time we got to the Mad King, it was okay. This has got to stop.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's supposed to be some sort of subtle warning that might or might not come up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, is this the moment where, I believe it's here where Jon says, so you say you can't have kids. Who told you that? And she says, the witch that killed my husband. She's like, do you ever think she might just be lying to mess with you?
Yeah. And that's definitely it, because we know that a witch really didn't kill Drogo. It was his injuries sustained in battle, and it was the Dothraki, the way they handle things. I mean, they don't do first aid. You either die in battle or that's it.
You live. That's it. You live or you die.
Yeah.
And
so, and I like that Jon pointed that out. And
I think it's interesting because obviously, as an audience, we've always taken it on face value as well. It's like, okay, she can't have kids. But why did we always take that on face value? It's kind of stupid when you think about it.
No, it is, but it's. I compared it in our conversation last night when we watched this. It was it's like a magic show, like stage magic. Is you don't notice the faults until you start thinking about it, because right in the moment, they're exploiting logic gaps.
Right.
And Nolan does this a lot in his movies, because I've been listening to a podcast where they go over some of his movies, and they were talking about The Prestige. And how that you could tell he has an understanding of magic and filmmaking, that if you can find those gaps in logic and exploit them, people aren't going to question you because they get mystified. And I feel that's what the showrunners have done here is, I forgot that she couldn't have kids up until this season, until that started becoming a thing.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a priority of hers. Her main priority was getting back to Westeros.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, if it's true, I mean, there's other ways to get, heirs.
It is.
But if it's not, then
it's kind of a game changer for her, isn't it?
Yeah, more of that at 11.
But this just ends now with Cersei coming back in and saying, we're gonna march north, which is obviously a big change, because when she left, even before she left, the truce wasn't that she was going to help out. It was just, no, we'll do nothing. We'll stand down and let you fight.
We're neutral.
Yeah, but we won't distract you from that fight.
Right.
But now it's no, we're going to help.
Right.
Of course, that's we cut away from there for a little bit. This is, I think, the first time we really cut to Winterfell now.
Yeah.
We have a first scene with Littlefinger and Sansa, and Sansa is just kind of pissed that Jon bent the knee. She's pretty annoyed. She's like, yeah, why would he do that without consulting? And Littlefinger decides to get manipulative because that's what he does. And he talks about the people made him the king in the north, not his birthright. The people that we can unmake him. And
you can tell Sansa's uncomfortable with that, because it's like she's irritated because, again, he's doing things without discussing them with her.
Yeah.
Even though that he left her in charge and trusts her enough, it was just like, well, I wish he would discuss these things with me. I wish there was an open line of communication.
Definitely.
But she's not that hung up on it. And then Littlefinger turns around and makes it this big, huge deal. And it overplays his hand, because Sansa's watching all of this.
I feel like this is the most blatant Littlefinger has been. Especially, here where he tells her about the game. Whenever I want to know something, just think about the worst possible outcome. And
Yep.
And whatever that is, think about why would that person want that? And he kind of
Mhm.
leads her down a path of that Arya wants to kill her so that she can be the Lady of Winterfell. And he's been really overt and blatant with it. And I'll be honest, at this moment, I was like, this is getting a bit unbelievable that
Well,
Sansa's not picking up on this. Because obviously, up till this point, it's been playing it
yeah,
like Sansa is on his side and believing it and
yeah,
going along with it. And I was like,
yeah.
okay, I'm starting to lose belief that this is even possible.
It's so over the top,
Yeah.
and it's just the way that I was reading this into. Littlefinger has nothing left. Like he's backed into a corner, knows he's in a corner because he's lost Sansa,
Yeah.
and without Sansa, what is he? Like that was this whole game to get the Vale and the North in one fell swoop.
Right.
And the North's proving to be tough because the North has always been his biggest problem. It was Ned and it was, whoever else that was standing in his way of getting with the Tully girl, with Catelyn.
I think it was Ned's brother.
Ned's brother? Yeah. Well, that's who she was supposed to be with at first.
Yeah.
Was Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's always been someone in the North. And it's just proving to be his Waterloo.
It is,
the North. Yeah. But it almost at the end of it, Sansa's kind of like, yeah, Arya is the problem.
Yeah, she's really going along with it, isn't she? She kind of seems caught up in Littlefinger's game, and obviously he feels like he's winning.
And that frustrated me because I was just like, Sansa, you're not that dumb. I know you're not that dumb.
Yes. Yeah.
But I only have to be worried a little bit.
Me too. But then we cut back to the the main camp of this episode. They have a little council meeting, which basically boils down: do we sail together or do I fly up alone?
Mm-hmm.
And like what message will that send, and what's the safest way? And ultimately, of course, she decides that they'll sail together because
of course they will.
Of course, yeah. It was kind of it was one of those scenes where it's like, okay, I guess that we have to do this, but I don't really feel the debate. Like I'm supposed to think that there's a legitimate way that this could go either way.
Yeah, but there wasn't.
There wasn't. It never felt that way, did it?
Well, I like that they point out that she can't travel with the Unsullied and the Dothraki because a marksman can see her silver hair and take her out easy. And yeah, she could ride the dragon, but why? We want to keep the dragons out of the game as much as possible right now.
Yeah.
So, but that because they're back in Dragonstone, that's not even the biggest moment in Dragonstone to me. It's that when Theon and Jon right after this.
Right, they have a fantastic conversation because Theon basically calls him back saying he wants to speak to him.
Yep.
And it's basically comes down to am I a Stark or a Greyjoy? Right. What am I? He's really questioning himself. Mm-hmm. And Jon's like, you're both. You got to be accepting of all of your heritage. And he accepts that Ned was his father as much as he was anyone else, or any of the others. Like he is part of that family. Undoubtedly, he is one of their brothers, without question.
He was Rob's best friend, Theon.
Right, exactly.
And that's why that made him deciding he was going to go Greyjoy at the end of that first season or the beginning of the second season.
Yeah.
That's what was so frustrating. Is it's like, well, you turned on your own family, and it's only continued to frustrate until now, when Jon's kind of calling him out on it. It's like, yeah, look, we know, I might not like you 100%, but you're still my family.
Right, and he does say, like I can't forgive you for everything. It's not my right. Mm-hmm. But everything I can, you're forgiven, which includes him betraying Ned and the family in general, I assume. Mm-hmm. And there's a great line where he says about Ned. He says he's a part of you, like he's a part of me, which obviously Jon thinks he meant literally for one of them. Right. But like they are both the same. They're both adopted sons. Yeah. They're both taken in by Ned, and they're equally raised as sons, even though they weren't.
Exactly, and even with Jon at this point, that we know that's exactly, he fostered him under a lie.
Yeah.
As opposite of he fostered Theon as, recompense for Balon's, rebellion.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's the legend of Ned Stark grows, is that he hasn't been around since that first season, but his specter
That's it, because every single one of those characters is in different ways trying to live up to being Ned Stark. Like Theon is trying to recover just some of the general honor, and being true to who he is, as Ned always was, or at least presented himself to be. Jon is trying not to, he's being the ultimate truth sayer. He won't lie and won't break his word. Sansa and Arya we'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah.
But of course they're playing in as well. And this gone.
No, I really like the scene compared to where the last time we saw them together, where Jon threatened to murder him. Like,
yeah, definitely.
For what he did. And so the fact that they could start the season that way and then end the season this way, it was fantastic.
Right. And then we actually continue with Theon here for a little while, where he goes, Yara needs me now to go and save her, so that's what I'm going to do. So he goes out to the rest of the Ironborn out there, and basically goes, "Hey, come on, Yara, we kind of owe her. Shouldn't we do something?" And they call him out for being a little bitch and running away every time.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Fairly so.
Yeah,
and
it's just these are the Ironborn. Right. They respect violence in action, and that's why Euron was able to show up and become the king, and that's why these guys went with Yara, because they liked the cut of her jib.
Yeah, it's why I have a little bit of a problem with the rest of this scene here. So basically they're getting a bit of a fight, and Theon is just getting pounded down. He is just bloodied on the ground already. Doesn't take long. Yeah. And the guy says to him, don't get up. If you get up, I'll kill you.
Yep.
And he keeps getting up. And ultimately, this scene kind of lost me, because it ends with Theon finally getting up and snapping and killing him with a rock. Right. Yeah. And he kind of proves his dominance in a sense just by that, in a very cheap way, which we'll get to in a moment. Yeah. But I was a little bit disappointed with the point of this scene here, because I really thought it was kind of be a test. Like they were saying you get up, I'll kill you. But he kept getting up anyway. He was proving that he was Iron Man. He was going to keep fighting. He wasn't going to be a coward.
Right. And then he takes it too far the other direction.
Right. I thought he was at some point he was going to stop him and go, "All right, you're one of us again. You've proved yourself."
Yeah.
But no, got to go to the death with the Ironborn, don't you?
Right. Well, you pay the iron price. Yeah.
That's it. They can't complain. They all signed up for it, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, the way he wins is a cheap way, because he just tries to knee him in the balls, which, of course, are gone. That said, that was a nice little moment where we learnt that he lost the balls as well.
Yeah.
Because that had always been a sticking point, because he'd always just referred to the sausage.
Right, not the eggs.
Yep. And again, this is the theme of, winning without a cock.
Yep.
Like the Unsullied, like here, like Cersei, like Daenerys. It's the idea that, the cock and it being a man because of that is kind of what is distracting all these other people.
Yeah.
Even Varys as well. Like that's why he's done so well. He hasn't had these distractions. But just change the page 1 second.
That wouldn't be the Maester without pages turning.
It's got to happen at some point, and unfortunately, this one was in the middle of a point. But it kind of ends with Theon kills him, stands up, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll follow you now. You proved yourself." And he's like, "Nah, still for Yara, not for me."
Yep.
And that's cool, I guess.
Which I like that part, because that's it. He's not doing it for himself. He is doing it for his sister.
Right.
And he abandoned her. Although, granted, I hated when he jumped earlier in the season, but I don't know where else that story goes if he doesn't jump.
Like I said, it was the right choice, but it was the wrong reasons from his perspective.
Yeah.
He had to jump so that we could continue this, so that we could save Yara at some point, so we could have this growth. And again, but he did it out of cowardice, out of fear, not out of tactical motivation. Mm-hmm. But back to Winterfell. Big moment.
Yeah.
Sansa has summoned Arya. We're in the Great Hall, and this is where it all goes down. Littlefinger's over there looking real smug. We got talking about a trial. We want to defend our family from betrayal,
Yep.
And you're accused of murder and treason, Lord Baelish. And of course, it's like, oh, thank God they were playing along. And I
Yep.
know it's what we'd suspected,
Yep.
but we also suspected that of Arya last season.
Yep.
With the stuff in Bravos, and then that turned out to be just her being a dumb bitch,
right,
and getting stabbed.
Right.
She didn't have a master plan at the time, like we all thought she did. And so,
but she learned.
She
went all through that, and she's learned to have a plan, and she executed this plan with the help of her sister.
Absolutely.
To take out the dirtiest player in the game.
But I have to say, I was a bit cynical because of that. It set me up to be cynical. That they didn't have a plan. Even though they should. But thankfully they did.
And also there's one key person that's here, and it's Bran. Without Bran, this plan can't come across.
Oh no, we'll get to that in a second. This is Littlefinger. Just he's so confused. He's like, they're like, okay, so you murdered Lysa Arryn. He's like, well, yeah, but for the good of the realm.
She was crazy. You couldn't leave her in charge.
Right.
I did it for everybody.
Yeah. He goes, yeah, but you also killed Jon Arryn. Well, you made her kill Jon Arryn and then blame it on the Lannisters. And he's like, well, I didn't do that. And that's when Bran chimes in. He chimes in.
Because he spent a lot of time on the Trader Net. He's been doing his own wikiing, and he's looked into the past of Peter Baelish. And boy, has he seen things.
Yep. He points out that he when he betrayed Ned, he said, he warned you not to trust me.
Oh.
And that's it. And he kind of... Yeah, he loses it, doesn't he? He's like, oh, shit, there's no getting out of this.
And then he starts pleading for his life.
I literally just put, he begs like a little bitch.
Yeah, because that's what he does. And like, he tries to say, well, I have the Knights of the Vale, and the Lord, I forget that guy's name. Yeah, he's the one that's always with Robin. Yeah. And he's like, no, you don't. Not anymore. And he even he pleads to Sansa. He's like, yeah, but, I helped you take back Winterfell. She's like, yeah, not before you sold me to the Boltons.
Yeah.
You've never had the best for the North at heart. You've only had what's good for you. And this is it. You're accused of treason and murder.
Yeah, and Sansa points out, she goes, I was playing a game. What is the worst that someone could do? And why would they do that? And she's like, where she says, I'm a slow learner, but I do learn eventually.
Yeah. And
and he's begging for his life. And I have to, shout out a lot of credit to Adrian Gillen here, where it's all in his accent. It's something that's been going on for a long time, where in the early seasons when he was in King's Landing, he was putting on, received pronunciation, the posh voice, the accent that the Lannisters have. Right. That was the accent that he was putting on. And as he moved away, he started to slip his natural Irish accent kind of slipped through at points a little bit. And it was the idea that was that, this man was kind of going up and presenting himself as better than he was. He was putting on a front to the lords of the court. And
that's of course, all his story has been. Yeah.
Right. But here, when he's begging, there is no pretense anymore. It's just his full, unfiltered Irish accent. That's it. It just comes out. He reverts to who he truly is, which is this pathetic man begging for his life.
Yep.
And of course, Sansa passes the sentence. And as one, Arya swings the sword.
Yep.
Well, knife. And slashes.
Slashes the knife.
Yes.
Right across the jugular.
Yep.
In the most satisfying moment on this show's history for me, because I hated Littlefinger since he turned on Ned and did I Told You Not to Trust Me.
Yep.
And then the fact that he's gotten away with all of these little games and that no one's been wiser
so high
to him. Yeah. And pride comes before the fall. The higher you go, man. That's it.
That's it. I love that he gets killed with his own dagger.
Yep.
Like, it's such a poetic moment.
It is. I stood up and clapped and yelled, "You got."
I obviously when we get to these bigger episodes, I have whiskey by the side, waiting to toast any fallen heroes.
Yeah.
And here I drank to his demise.
Yep.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. It was my favorite moment of this season, of this episode. And I know that's shallow, cheering for a villain's death, but
it's
this
been a
dude
while
has
since
caused me
we've
so much stress.
That's it. Like we've had, sure, we had Ramsey's death, which was cool,
Yeah.
but never had the impact of this, did it? Like this is someone who's gone for so long unpunished and was so viciously evil and conniving that it was like, it's so good to see him get got.
So in the alignment of like role playing, he's like very much neutral evil, right? He's really out.
He's chaotic.
He's not chaotic evil though, because he has a set of rules he follows. He
does, but he like he says he thrives on chaos. Like chaos ladder. That's his whole thing. Like everything is about everything he does is about causing chaos.
Yeah. See, to me, Joffrey's more the chaotic evil because he's just doing things willy nilly, and there's not much planning there. It's just whatever he wants in the moment. Yeah. With Littlefinger, it was I have this plan and I'm going to manipulate, and he doesn't have to stick to it. That's what keeps him nimble.
He's innovative.
Yeah, exactly. And so I hate those type of people the most. The ones that are conniving and the ones that are just like, yeah, I did it, but you can't stop it. It's also my problem with Cersei is that she gets away with a lot of things.
It's also why they're kind of my favorite villains, though, because you hate them so much. Because you go, I know exactly why you're doing this, and you're so damn good at it. But when you finally fall, it's going to be so satisfying. And it was.
Exactly. So just as looking into it that way, I couldn't get over it more, and especially with the Ned Stark, where you pass the judgment, you swing the sword.
Yeah.
Here, Arya is that sword. She's
Yeah, like it's not quite. Obviously Sansa's the one that passes, but it's kind of a team effort between them anyway.
It
like
is.
The two of them were in on this. It's the two of them working together for the first time properly, ever maybe.
With all the problems that he's caused this family, it's fitting that it's two of them that team up to do it.
It is. It's what it had to be. So with that, we will leave Winterfell until one final epilogue scene. We'll get there at the end, but we go back to King's Landing, Cersei and Jaime, because this is what it all comes down to: family drama. We have the Starks more united than ever. But here we see the Lannisters are more fractured than ever before.
Yep.
Because, this is not great. Cersei basically comes up. Jaime's there in the courtyard on that stupid map, planning. This is what we're going to do. Go north here. These people come from there. We'll get there whenever. And Cersei's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, just planning our movements. I'm being the commander of our armies, like I'm supposed to be. She's like, don't be a stupid bitch. We ain't going north.
We're staying here. I was lying. That's what I do.
And of course, it juxtaposes so perfectly with Jon's speech earlier about not lying.
And the complete opposite. It's the Starks versus the Lannisters.
It is. This is
why this story lied about having money for years.
Exactly.
And let it be blamed on Robert for his vices and whatnot. That didn't help. But yeah, man. But this scene, not that it gutted me, but just with Jaime, I'm just like, dude, you gotta wise up. She ain't got your best interests at heart here.
No, clearly not, because she gives a great speech about there's all the monsters are in the north. Let's just let them kill each other. No, not our problem. And he goes. Yeah,
that was a nice point. That like all of these monsters we've been told as kids, they all are here, but they're not a problem right now.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, but we can't win this. I've faced the Dothraki and the dragons. We can't beat those. If they can't beat the White Walkers, then we definitely can't. So what the hell are we playing at?
Yep.
But no. She's having none of it, is she?
Nope. And then, he's kind of like, she's like, well, no, this is what I've been born to do. You got to go out and hunt and ride and do all of that boy stuff. But I learned it at Father's Hip, and I learned how to do
follow
these
the
things.
Gold, basically.
And I know the value of gold. You don't. And that's where she brings up the Golden Company. And that's where Jamie's just like, really sell swords? Like as an army? Are you insane?
Yep. It's like, what good are they? They're across the sea. They don't help us here. And of course, she point out that Cersei knows about Viserion. She spotted that there was only 2 dragons. She was like,
yep,
they're vulnerable. They can be taken out.
Mm-hmm. But by nothing that they have. I mean,
but she doesn't know that. As far as she's concerned, it's like they can be killed.
Yeah.
So she thinks that they can win, and obviously Jamie knows otherwise. But like I say, Golden Company across the sea, and this is where I love this scene for the most part, but this kind of loses me a little bit. Yeah. Where she says, "Yeah, Euron didn't really pussy off out of here earlier. He was actually following a plan where he went to fetch them with all his ships." And again, I don't know.
So I talked about the Night King needing having the dragon, that part of his plan.
Yeah.
Like, so what if there was no undead and there was no meeting? Like Euron was just gonna be like, "All right, well I have stuff to do. I gotta see a man about a horse. See ya."
And this is it. Other than the moment of them thinking that they don't have Euron anymore, what does she gain from this? Obviously, like she thinks that Daenerys is looking at this going, right, so they're down a navy. They don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So I guess that'll be a surprise when it's like, oh, we still have a navy. But ultimately, I don't think it gains her that much. And it kind of, I don't buy it.
They're fighting a land war now. The navy is done. Like, they served their purpose. The Tyrell and Dornish navies are gone. Like, Daenerys is already there. We've seen what her dragons can do over the land in battle.
I mean, we've seen the Dothraki and the Unsullied right outside your gates.
Yeah, and
they are here. Like, what is Euron gonna do?
Exactly, nothing. So
I mean, he could swing. This
is just one of those. Well, yeah, I mean that's cool. That's the only time he's likable. But like, she could have just said this earlier. It didn't have to be a surprise. And then with the Jamie, I get why she's like, yeah, well, he's fulfilling being the the marriage requirements for the queen.
Yeah.
And that was just a shot at Jamie, who's done everything for her. And it's not good enough.
He's kind of annoyed that it's like, hang on, you plotted this without talking to me. You're playing with Euron without talking to me. And he's not happy about it. Understandably so. And he's just not having it. And of course he tries to storm out.
Yep. But
Mountain's there, and it has this great moment where it's like, are you going to kill me? Are we going to do this? And she kind of looks like she's going to give the order.
She nods.
She nods. Does give the order. No, but she nods, but it's more of a nod to move out of the way, like let him pass nod. Yeah.
But Jamie don't know that. I didn't know that at the moment.
No, not first. It's a nod, but is it a nod to let him go, or is it a nod to kill him?
Right. Because Mountain has unsheathed his sword halfway like he did against Tyrion.
Yeah.
And so
also, there's a great bit of music in here, which is something I've not said enough this season. I'll get to that at the end. But it's a reworking of, you remember that it was I think it's called The Light of the Seven, the piece. It's from the end of the last season, where that amazing sequence where where she's blowing up the Scepter Baelor.
Yeah.
That phenomenal piece of music there. It's a reworking of that theme, and I don't think I've heard it since then. So that was really nice to come in.
Well, it's also that she's blowing up her relationship with Jamie.
Right, exactly. That's it. She's being destructive, just in a non-physical way, in this sense. Yeah. But obviously Jamie leaves. He's gone, and he sees the first snow, the first southern snows of winter. Yep. And that's it. It's here.
That's it. I feel he's joining Snow and Daenerys' company soon.
Yeah.
Because he's not gonna, he looks at his hand, and it's just like, well, what have I given up for this family? And she thinks I've done nothing. So there's no reaching for her.
Right. And it's kind of goes back to what Brienne said earlier. Forget about loyalty. It's not, this isn't about loyalty. It's about doing what's right. And it's kind of getting through to him. And this, we have this gorgeous montage of, all the places being hit by the first snow. And, oh, your mic's going. But we have this fantastic piece where it's actually the title music, that the opening credits, but sung by this choir. I don't know if I've heard it as actual score before like this.
No, but
Again,
it feels like Christmas music, you know?
it does, and again, it's this idea that this is what the show has always been about: winter. Like we've always been, winter's coming, winter's coming, and winter's here. It's here, even in the South now. It is here unequivocally, and it's like the title music is saying, no, this is the show now. This is it. It's on.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, me too.
Of course, we've got one more big moment left. So we go back up to Winterfell. We see Sam arriving, and he goes straight up to see Bran because of course he does.
Well, he knows he let him through, right?
Yeah.
And so they have a kind of a weird bond going on.
And of course, you have the great moment already to start off with, where Bran's like, Sam's like, what happened to you out there?
Yeah.
Because he's a curious bastard, and Bran just goes, I became the three-eyed raven, as he says to everyone.
Yeah.
And Sam goes, oh, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Well, you just reminded me when he said he's a three-eyed raven. That's like Danny on Defenders telling people he's the immortal Iron Fist.
It really is. It's just it means nothing. It explains nothing to anyone. It's just a statement that you just repeat over and over again. Saying something over and over again doesn't make people understand it.
No, not at all. But he gets talking about like John and to Sam.
Yes.
And Sam's really excited. Like he's back to where he feels he does belong.
Yeah. And obviously he's talking about how, we really want to speak to John. He really needs to know the truth about himself. And, he talks about his birth. And, he just straight up says, he's not Ned's child. He's child of Rhaegar and Lyanna.
Yeah, because he's not Jon Snow. He should be Jon Sand because he was born in Dorne.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where Bran. Oh, because that's who Bran says that.
Bran says that, and Sam suddenly remembers that nonsense bollocks that Gilly read out of the journal.
Yep.
And Bran immediately jumps in to verify. He hooks himself up to the treaty net, sticks an Ethernet cable in the back of his head. Away he goes.
Boom. Jack's in.
Yep. And witnesses the wedding. And it was kind of nice to see. I think it's the first time we've seen Rhaegar, of course, in person.
First time we've seen Rhaegar. He looks a lot like Viserys. Too much like Viserys for my liking.
At first I actually thought that was just the same actor.
Yeah.
Like on first glance.
Right.
And obviously we don't get a real good look at him. It's all through.
No, it's just on the side, and Lyanna looks happy.
Yeah. But that's it. He goes, Robert's rebellion was built on a lie. It was never. She was never kidnapped. This was clearly out of love.
She went away.
Yeah, this was her choice, and it kind of murkies everything. Yeah,
I got goosebumps because again, I'm not a book reader, but I love the mythos of the show and the whole R+L=J. Just the full-on confirmation.
Right, it's like we've known this for like a season, and we've all known it as viewers. But this scene is just in case you haven't put these pieces together, we're going to tell you real clear.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes this scene a bit creepy. Because as this is going on, it intercuts with Jon and Daenerys. And you see where this is going. Okay, so we cut to their sex scene for the first time. Yeah. And this is while he's basically going, yeah, they're related. Just, and this sex scene could have happened at any point in the last, season, and we'd have all, like most of us will have known they were related, so it would have been creepy anyway. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But this is, okay, in case you didn't know, you need to know this to realize how creepy this is. That's what this scene is. And it's just for those who did know, we're going to remind you anyway, because it's creepy as shit. Yep,
that's his aunt, even though they're the same age, right? She's born at the end of Robert's Rebellion. He's the end of Robert's Rebellion. Pretty much. Never knew. Outside of Viserys, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was making sure the computer didn't freeze because you got quiet. So there's no way of her knowing any of this.
Whatsoever. Of course.
And Jon only knows that his aunt got taken by Rhaegar, and that's a sticking point with the Starks versus the Targaryens.
Like I said, it's what got them involved.
He's overcome that. He's pledged to her, and it's like Tyrion has said, all these men that come in contact with Daenerys fall in love with her. But here's, I think, for the first time, Daenerys, it's equal. Like, she respects and likes Jon because he's Jon, not because he's a horse lord and was sold there, or not because he's, slick like
it's
like
the first
Dario.
time she's made the choice, really, because Dario was kind of like, hey, I'm here, I'm cool. Yeah. Obviously, Drogo, she didn't have any choice whatsoever.
No. And even with Jorah, who's always been in love with her, which that's another creep factor, Yeah. No choice in that because he was raised, she was raised around him, and if they weren't related, it'd be fine. But the fact that that's his aunt and that's her long lost nephew, who's named Aegon.
Yeah, that's what we learned, because we saw that moment last season, but we didn't hear it.
No.
Yeah, his name is Aegon Targaryen.
I definitely like what the internet was suggesting, that was Jaehaerys, just because it would keep the John J.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But now they're calling him Aegon instead of Aegon, which works for me too.
Why not just Jaegon?
Jaegon, that's another one. The fact that Rhaegar's son that died in King's Landing was also named Aegon.
Yeah, it kind of brings me to feel like Rhaegar really wanted his heir to be called Aegon. Like, he really wanted that. And of course, the annulment meant he knew that this was his heir.
Right.
Like, he knew that.
This would have been in the books. Like, so the Dorne line and the Dorne and Targaryen line doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, their children, they literally become sand, I guess. I
don't know, because they're not actually bastards. Because they were.
Well, no, but they become bastards because of the annulment. They were never. It makes it like they were never married, so the children become bastards.
But I still feel that they could be Targaryen.
No, not in name. In blood, obviously, but
then if they were born there, then they would be Waters.
Right? Yeah, I don't know whereabouts they were born.
Yeah. But it's just like, man, Rhaegar, dude, I get it. You were obsessed with the Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised, but like, couldn't come up with something better. You had to go with Aegon twice.
Yeah, bit unoriginal.
And even his daughter was Rhaenys, which is like, his name.
It is, isn't it? It's on theme.
Yeah, it's on theme. So, but this opens up that whole, we kind of skipped over it early on in the season about the prince that was promised and how the Valyrian, the gender of words are neutral, and that it could be either or. But in the Azor Ahai story, Azor Ahai has to make Lightbringer, the sword that's gonna, defeat the Great Other.
Yes.
And he has to, tries to forge it 3 times, right? One time it breaks. Second time it breaks. The third time he forges it with the blood of his beloved and runs it through his wife. And then that's what makes Oathbreaker. So it makes Lightbringer.
Yeah.
Right? And it's almost as if Jon is Lightbringer, because this is the third kid. Yeah. Born into blood, So I'm not going to make the stabbing metaphor, because I'm not crass.
I'm sure you're not.
But yeah, so, and it almost makes me think that this is the prophecy coming into full, is that Daenerys could be Azor Ahai, or the prince that was promised, whatever prophecy.
Well, it was the prince that was promised wields Lightbringer. So that would make Rhaegar Azor Ahai.
Right.
Jon.
He forges.
Yeah, he forges Jon to be Lightbringer, and Daenerys wields him.
Right.
Because she directs him. She commands. She's in charge. Exactly. She commands.
So I feel this is the first. Right. That was promised.
Yes.
And so Rhaegar's whole trying to make this prophecy happen finally worked, and this prophecy, through sheer luck, as it were, is coming to pass, which is the first time we've kind of seen something like that happen. Every other prophecy has been kind of amorphous, like with Melisandre and the King's Blood. Like, was that really her magic from the Lord of Light that killed all of them, or was it just poor choices on their parts?
That's true. We're still waiting on Cersei's prophecy. That's probably the most on its way to being accurate.
Which that's the other thing is this child the little brother that kills her? Because she's only supposed to have 3 kids.
That's it. I know. But the last thing to talk about this scene here is Tyrion is kind of watching what's going on. You know, he sees them go to the room and he hears them banging away.
Yeah.
And he has a strange look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how do you describe it? Kind of.
It's mournful.
Mournful, yeah, sorrow.
But not like people are reading it. They're like, "Oh, he's in love with Dany. You know, he knows he can never." I don't think it's that.
No, I don't think it's that at all.
He definitely made some type of deal with Cersei that we didn't see.
Yep, I think that was the whole thing, because that whole thing in the thing with Cersei was, you know, he doesn't want to fight his family. He wants this all to be okay, but at the same time, he has to do what he did.
And he was pushing her to make an heir, right? That was that whole scene about a couple episodes ago, and she got all bent out of shape. It was actually last episode, and because that's when she flew off on the dragon to go save them.
Yeah.
And I feel like if there's an heir, now that means that Cersei's child that she's with is a problem, right? Because that is now a new Daenerys. That if they whisk that kid away, then that's only going to lead more problems down the line.
Right. It's another potential usurper situation to go back to that. Like I said, I think it is he made a deal and he's regretting it because he loves his family, but he thinks he's doing what was right with Daenerys. And,
exactly.
You know, he's just like, this can't end well.
Yeah, and we skimmed over the part where he talked about Cersei, that he tempers her because the Targaryens are all about fire and blood. But with him there, he can talk her out of her more crazy rumblings, you know, feelings.
Right. But she did say, you know, like, how's she any different? And it's like, yeah, but she chose me around. She knows what she's like and doesn't want that.
Exactly. And I feel that has a lot to do with him being mournful. Is this one of the bad decisions? You know, is this, he couldn't talk her out of it, you know? But I'm curious to see where that goes. And another thing, why that, you know, the wall coming down and the dead marching across is just like, well, dang it, we're going to have to wait so long.
Right. But, you know, last thing in the episode before the wall that we've already spoke about is, we're just back to Sansa now. Yeah, they're on the walls at Winterfell looking out at the winter snows, and, you know, they're sisters at last, and, you know, they kind of reminisce about Ned, and, you know, they have all their moments of, you know, all the things that he said, you know, about the lone wolf dies while the pack survives.
Yep.
And, you know, just the idea that they proved him right ultimately by being a family. And, you know, just how much they miss him. It's a nice moment. And like I say, it's the first time that these two have actually been nice to each other all show. Not just recently, ever.
Well, and Arya's back to acting like Arya that we know, not this detached, weird killer girl. You know, and it's nice because now it is the two sisters that never got along. They've matured into their roles. Yeah. And again, you know, Ned's family, you know, his dad was burned by the Mad King and his brother, and whoever else, his sister, was died at their hands, but he survived for this next generation. And that's just like the casualties of Rickon and Robb.
Yeah, and to go back to, you know, how I was saying earlier, like they were all trying to live up to Ned in some way. In here, it's the pair of them together trying to be, you know, the idea of family above all else, and the ruling fairly. Because they still gave Littlefinger a trial, in a sense. Yeah. You know, they presented the evidence and said, this is what you're accused of. Do you deny it? Yeah. And it got to a point where it was like, okay, he didn't deny it. He's guilty. That's the sentence. But they didn't do anything until he admitted it.
Exactly.
Which was important.
And I still feel without Bran, that plan still could have worked. You know?
It could have, yeah.
Because he was going to dig himself a hole no matter what, because he overplayed his hand.
It just happened sooner than he wanted.
Exactly. But, yeah.
No, really great episode.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
I will say, here's where just a little bit about the season as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Iron Fist earlier, and it's I feel in a similar way to how I do at the end of that first season of Defenders, where individually I enjoyed every episode.
Yeah.
I thought they were really great. Well, varying degrees of good to great.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of it, I feel like it's not finished. Like I'm unsatisfied overall.
It feels like a half season.
It does, and
Yeah.
I feel like the pacing it's tried to overcompensate for this lack of time where they've rushed things together. And it's like I say, it's like, okay, John and Danny, they got to have this romance, but I haven't really seen it build as a romance. It's just kind of happened.
That's my biggest problem. Is we've seen mutual respect, but them just jumping into bed feels like
right,
real too fast.
Right, exactly. It's all these things like that, like well, it's just the idea of oh, okay, so we've got to have an ice dragon at this point, or a white dragon.
Yeah.
More accurately, it's like all these things just feel like, okay, the plot has to be here by this point, so we're just going to jump to it, even though we haven't necessarily built and seeded correctly. Things like Dornish woman name I'm forgetting.
Oh, Ilaria.
Yes, Ilaria. Like the idea that she was locked up, downstairs in King's Landing, but that's it. No more of that. And from what we've seen from the actress in interviews afterwards, that's it. That's the end of that story.
Yeah.
And
well, it's the whole Dornish plot too. Is like it's almost like in the books they had to adapt it because we need Marcella to die, right? So,
but they didn't know where to go with it because obviously that's as far as the books got with that.
Exactly. So with Ilaria taking over Dorne and the whole Sand Snakes, like I feel like everything to do with them
feels irrelevant. Nothing.
Exactly, right. Because them being there doesn't change the outcome whatsoever.
Nothing has changed, but other than Marcella being dead, which could have happened.
That's it.
Any other ways, there has been no impact from Dawn whatsoever.
No. And so, but yeah, I almost forgot about her and Tyene in that cell until that's something like maybe a scene or something of her having to watch her daughter die. Like, yeah, it seems brutal, but that's Cersei.
Right, just to remind us, this is a real stake, and I think that brings me to my other problem: stakes. I don't know. I'm feeling the threats, but part of me misses the days where I truly believed that no one was safe, because I don't anymore.
Yeah, well, there was no we sent that ranging people beyond the wall, and we only had one of the heroes drop, and
right.
we had seen
and let's be honest, it was Thoros, which. I mean, he was one of our heroes, sure, but he's not one of the people that we really care about. No,
he was the one I was okay with.
The only major death of people, not counting the dragon, obviously.
Right.
The only major character death, in my opinion, this season has been Littlefinger.
Yeah.
And that's one that we all wanted. I mean, sure, you had the phrase at the start, but again, they're not really major characters, but
no.
And again, ones that we wanted. There was none where I felt the loss, and there were moments where I thought, "Oh, it could be Tyrion when the Mountain pulls his sword in this episode," and then when it happens with Jaime, I was like, "Oh, they already faked me out with Tyrion. Jaime must be a goner," but no, they keep threatening, but they're not delivering on any of these threats. That I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of a little bit upset. It feels strange because obviously it feels awful when one of these characters dies, but it was kind of a really defining part of the show.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it isn't that. There is no threat of my favorite character.
I also felt like shocking deaths were becoming a crutch.
They were, but
and so,
there should be a middle ground.
Yeah, but I feel like the stakes coming now. This whole season was to set up the threat of the walkers.
Right.
Right. And to make the rest of the rest of the realm, there we go, feel that as well. And if that means that we're not going to kill off characters willy-nilly, then cool. But I wish that for this crazy white plan, I wish we would have lost maybe Beric or even Tormund. As much as I love Tormund,
right? That's it.
His death there
would have had impact, and that's it. I don't want them to kill off loads willy-nilly, but we didn't get anyone that I care about die this year. I don't think anyone cared about really died this season, and that's kind of a problem for me. No, again, I don't need everyone to die. I'm not saying kill them all, but just someone to remind us that people aren't safe. Where it does feel like they have plot arm. Like how many times Jaime went up against the dragons, and then he was in the lake, and then we had the bit with the mountain here, That's three just off the top of my head. There might have been more.
Yeah, but I feel
forgetting.
so we all know that I watch professional wrestling, and they'll tease making people champion just to see where it goes. Once they tease it 3 times, you can kind of feel like there's a title change coming along. And I feel like Jamie's not going to be long for this world much longer, because now this is like 3 that we've teased.
Yeah.
You know? So if they're laying the groundwork to come, because I feel next season's going to be bloody.
It probably is.
The Great War, you know?
Yeah, it probably is. But that kind of brings a problem with this season as a whole. When you look at it as an individual season, it failed to deliver its own story in that, like you just said, it's all about setting up season 8. It's all about let's get ready for that. It doesn't deliver enough on its own merits, I don't think, for me. Even though individually every episode is enjoyable.
Yeah, because it was a lot of plot driven, and I'm a plot guy when it comes to stories. Like, I like a good meaty plot, and that's what drives the story. And I know other people are character guys and they want character moments, and the show's done a good job at balancing those. I think that's why it's been so satisfying and why it's the biggest show on TV.
Right.
This season was definitely more of the plot driven, so it didn't bother me as much.
It was. It was really only these last 2 episodes where I felt, oh, these are the character, but the banter and the catching up of characters. It's like, this is what I love. I want some. Exactly. I missed this, and it's kind of, you don't really notice that it's missing until it gets to the end, and it's like, oh, hang on, we didn't really have any of that.
Yeah.
Because you keep thinking it's coming, and again, music. I feel like there was barely any new music. We did have a lovely new piece during that creepy montage, sex exposition dump. Great new piece.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only straight up original piece of music I can point to this season.
Yeah.
They've really overplayed things like the Winterfell theme and Daenerys' theme, where it's just to the point where I'm like, I want something new to listen to. And on a production of this size, it's kind of inexcusable for me. I don't know.
That stuff doesn't bother me as much, because again, I still had a lot of good, like we talked about early, the big moments. Like, this was full of them.
Oh, it absolutely is.
So, and I don't, we all know, I don't pay attention to the music like you do. Like, that's your thing. But so the fact that it delivered on a lot of good plot, and we had the loot train.
Yeah, that's another hard word. It was a great sequence.
Jeez. And just even thinking Jamie was done for, like, he's going to go out trying to be a queen slayer.
Right, this is it. This is all these moments where I'm going, I'm terrified for character. In that moment, I was terrified for both Daenerys and Jamie. And Bronn. It's like, any of these could die, but I don't want any of them to die. But I felt the fear. But every time they do it and they're not delivering, it's losing its impact. It's starting to get to the boy who cried wolf, where I'm just not going to believe it, and it's just not going to work. But definitely, I don't know. I still think it's a decent season, but not its best.
Well, no, I mean, and we came off such a high last year with Battle of the Bastards and then Winds of Winter. That's a hard 1-2 punch to beat. And yeah, all I have to defend it is I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it this year. I wish on a lot of those journeys that got expedited, where like we got the Jamie and Bran stuff and the Jamie and Bronn relationship, we had that banter that just wasn't there this year.
Right.
And it would have been cool to see, but I'm not sitting there going, well, this failed as a story because
like I say, I obviously can't say that because I enjoyed every episode and it worked. But by the end, I just felt like I was missing parts of what made the show that I loved.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we're done for this season. What do you reckon?
We're good. So
we're good.
So this is where our journey comes to an end for the next whoever knows how long.
Yeah, yes.
But when the next season comes, look for our Ravens. And if you do want to send us a Raven of your own, you can go to Twitter, where I'm at Matt of Steel 57. Connor's at Connor Ryan 94. You can find Mild Fuzz at mild_fuzz.
It is indeed. Of course, you can also come and join us in the Facebook group. Just search Mild Fuzz and request to join. We talk about Game of Thrones a lot while it's on, and not as much while it's off, but anything that's relevant, it's always there. It's open for discussion. A lot of people there that like talking about it.
Exactly, especially when it comes to casting new characters and whatnot. I mean, I don't know how many we're going to get this time, but I remember last year.
Hey, I mean, we're going to be waiting so long for this next season. We might even have another book to talk about before then.
Yeah,
you just don't know.
We could, and fingers crossed. But, so join us next time. We're going to hit the King's Road and get out of here. And I have no other words other than what is dead may never die, only rises again stronger, I think.